West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this, what are we, Wednesday? Goodness.
Yeah, it's Wednesday all day today, too, which I'm not sure about that one. I had questions about that.
Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Got an absolutely fire show today. We're going to be joined here in just a minute by Representative Jeff Crank, the Congressman from Congressional District 5, Colorado Springs area. 7 o'clock hour. You may have seen this on the news. It was covered by Libs of TikTok, but a slate of candidates running for school board in Elizabeth, Colorado, had their signs destroyed, sprayed with Nazi swastikas.
In Elizabeth.
Right.
In Elizabeth.
Very far out there, rural Elizabeth. Yeah,
That's
someone made a concerted effort to get out there. They cut barbed wire fencing to get to some of these, which creates some safety issues.
Someone's not a farmer or rancher because there's a way to get her through the barbed wire. Oh, well.
Size
people.
sometimes matters, too.
Yeah, that's true. But also, if you come prepared, maybe from younger adventures on farmland, if you come prepared, heavy blankets can work real well if you need to get
Correct.
over, around, through. Yeah, just saying. Or at least so I have heard, Mom. Yes, so I have heard. We'll go with that story.
We're going to talk with the slate of candidates who are facing that type of intimidation from the left. And in light of a week ago today, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, does it seem like the left is at any interest in toning down the rhetoric or the violence? Doesn't seem to be the case. We'll be talking with Nicole, Mary, and David in the 7 o'clock hour. Rose Puglisi joins us in the 8 o'clock hour. She's freed up a little bit of her time.
Yeah, she has. This was a difficult one when I heard that she's stepping away. It hurts me when we lose some of the good ones. Some of the ones that have character. Rose and I don't agree on everything, but I do agree that she's a good person. And it hurts me when we lose good people out of the legislature. I don't care if I agree or disagree with you, because at the end of the day, I am confident you are going to make a good decision. We can disagree on the decision. That's fine. But we're losing a good one on this, and she's stepping away, and she's doing it for the right reasons. I support her for doing it.
Yeah, I do too.
I get it.
100%.
Yeah, it's the right choice for her, but damn, it's hard.
Rose is going to join us 8 o'clock hour. Then Heather Galeen, Director of Marketing and Communication with South Metro Denver Chamber. So, full show. People coming by the studios. Members of Congress giving us a call. And speaking of that, let's go straight to the phone lines.
Yeah.
He is joining us now on the VIP line. Mr. Jeff Crank, good morning, Congressman. Thank you for the time.
Speaking of people that don't agree with me, hey, how are you?
Jeff and Bill, good morning. How are you guys?
Nice to hear from you.
Glad to have you with us. Letter yesterday to Jared Polis sent by you and by Congresswoman Lauren Boebert and Gabe Evans as well. You got some concerns about the crime issues we're facing in Colorado. Tell us about the letter you sent to the governor.
Well, sure. Again, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, look, I mean, everybody except Jared Polis knows the dirty little secret in Colorado, which is crime has increased. People feel less safe. And the reason for that is the terrible laws that we're passing in the General Assembly. I mean, these soft on crime laws that reduce sentencing and, allow people to carry, drugs, as long as it's quote unquote for personal use, no matter kind of what the drug is. All of these things have been contributing to crime and the increase in crime. And, Coloradans feel unsafe about it. And I don't know why the governor doesn't get that, doesn't understand it, but we thought we'd help him along by sending him that letter.
Well, God forbid a Democrat elected official would ever say, I got that thing wrong. Maybe I could go back and fix it. But I think that's the real reason why. So what I love about this letter, and I've retweeted it, it's at Gabe Evans, his X account. I know Jeff Crank's retweeted it as well. Here's what I love about the letter. You guys put together a list of the exact laws that have been passed the last few years that have put our state in this problem that we're facing. This isn't ethereal. It's not, oh, goodness, Governor, could you do something about the bad guys out on the streets? You create one by one the laws that have been passed by the General Assembly, signed by this governor, that have put our state in the position it's currently in. I'll read some of them. One of the big ones, House Bill 1034, which allows for the rapid release of potential dangers to Colorado communities if they are found by a court to not be competent to stand trial. This is one of the big ones. And it was passed in a bipartisan fashion. And I've talked to Rose about this. I've talked to Republicans. And they admit this one they got wrong. And they want to change it, but you don't see that coming from the Democrats yet. What is it from your perspective, Congressman Jeff Crank, that is getting in the way? You have a list. You know exactly what needs to be done. Why won't Jared Polis take this on? Call a special session.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it is just, it's nothing more than arrogance. I mean, I think you got it right. It's this unwillingness to just admit that, hey, maybe the idea we had wasn't the greatest. And I think we've seen that from Jared Polis, whether it's the immigration issue, right? And he continues to say, well, we're not a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state after he passed these laws that made us that, right? And so it's just kind of this arrogance to kind of march forward. And the governor has blamed everyone else for the problems and the ills of Colorado, but I think the people of Colorado see through that and they blame Jared Polis. We saw that he blamed the whole special session and everything that they had to do on Congress. It's all the federal government's fault. It's not their spending in their mind. It's not the fact that they've accelerated spending. So you see this with Jared Polis. And on the crime issue, it's definitely the case. I mean, we talked about eliminating, cash bail for so many offenses. These guys are radicals. There's radicals in the legislature. The governor is unwilling to tell them no. So, they pass these crazy laws and the governor won't say, no, I'm just going to veto that. And that's a little too crazy. And that's catching up with Colorado, and we're seeing it have an impact in crime.
That's Representative Jeff Crank. He represents the Colorado Springs area in Congress. Congressman, I want to pivot here to some of the national issues. We're a week removed from the assassination of a good friend of both yours and mine and the American people. That was Charlie Kirk. And that day, I've talked with Congresswoman Lauren Boebert about that. She goes down, tries to get some prayer going, and gets shouted down there. In moments of national tragedy, historically, you've watched the American people come together. It doesn't seem to be the case with Congress. Can you give us a sense of the temperature in Congress right now, 1 week removed from the assassination, probably the worst political assassination we've had since the 60s?
Yeah, well, it is, and it's a tragedy. Obviously it's a tragedy for the Kirk family, but it's a tragedy for America. I have been saying this the last couple of days, that the attack on Charlie Kirk was really an attack on America, because it was an attack on our values. And it wasn't just Charlie Kirk that died. It was a little bit of the innocence of a generation who believed in Charlie Kirk, but it was also a little bit of the First Amendment, right? Which we saw. I mean, Charlie Kirk, of all people, believed in going out and having those debates, having those discussions. And and people disagreeing about an issue and that being okay. And so to me, that's what's so shocking about it. That and the reaction of some people. I mean, it's sickening, really, to see that some people, whether they're certain entertainers or, some of these employees who've been let go by their employer, and they're shocked that an employer would let you go because you said something so abhorrent. I mean, our moms and our dads, all of us, hopefully taught us, that when someone dies, when someone's murdered, you don't dance on their grave. You don't say bad things about them. Just keep your mouth shut if you've got bad things to say. And so it's really sad to see kind of the coarseness of our society. But I hope that out of that, maybe we can rise. We know that, and you kind of mentioned this, right? September 11th, when that happened, we all came together after that attack on America. I believe this is a similar sort of attack. I mean, obviously, we didn't have 3,000 people who were killed, but it's an attack on our values. And I just hope Americans see that, rally around it. And here in Congress, I mean, certainly we had a vigil the other night, 2 nights ago. We had a vigil. I was there. Lauren was there, and several other members. There were certainly some Democrats that came, and I give them credit for doing that. And I certainly believe that I'd have the courage, if this were someone on the left who had been assassinated, that I'd have the courage to show up and do that. I certainly have condemned it. And I thought back to the time when Robert Deere down in Colorado Springs, I was on the radio at the time, and he shot up the Planned Parenthood clinic there. He's a pro-life kook. He's a nut who went and did violence on people because he disagreed politically with an issue. And I immediately condemned that. We'll always condemn it. But we all have a special responsibility to do that. And I think especially when it's on our side of the aisle, we have an obligation to condemn that violence. And so I think generally we all get along, but it is very frustrating when, we have folks that just think that it's okay. And maybe just it's this soft acknowledgement that somehow it's okay to push it to the line, right? I mean, I would say this. There's been a lot of violence. It doesn't have to always be assassination, but when you're attacking police, when you're in the streets attacking police officers, that's political violence too, right? Once it crosses the line from protest to violence. And so we've got to get our society under control. It starts with families talking to one another, friends talking to one another, but we've got to get back to being Americans.
That's Representative Jeff Crank. He represents the Colorado Springs area in Congress. Can you give me some insight, Congressman, into maybe some of the conversations you're having with your colleagues? Because I have to imagine, after not just what happened to Charlie Kirk, but Steve Scalise, Gabby Giffords, that safety concerns always lingering around there as a community leader, as a member of Congress. These are conversations that you probably have with your colleagues. Can you give us some insight with regards to what we need to do to protect free speech, protect the political process we have here, how you all are taking security concerns with regards to maybe your office, staff, other members of Congress? How did the assassination a week ago change those conversations?
Oh, I think it definitely changed those conversations. And, we take it serious here at the, certainly at the Capitol complex itself. The security is good. And I think it was heightened after the incident on January 6th. And, you see it here. I think people feel secure once they're, behind the walls. The question is, sort of when you go out into the community, and there's definitely been an uptick in that. I just listening to the conversations and being here, I've been concerned about it. In fact, about, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago, I said, look, I mean, we can't allow it to be that we allow someone to get killed before we take this serious. Like, we have to take this seriously. There is a movement. There will be money, as I understand it, put into the CR that's coming up here for security for the Supreme Court, for many members of the executive branch. Aside from the president and cabinet members, there's others as well. And then for members of Congress. And it's just something, sadly, that we have to do in this day. But, it's a difficult thing. But we can't cower away from the responsibility that we have, right? We can't let them win. The worst thing that would happen after the death of Charlie Kirk would be for all of us to say, well, we're just too afraid to speak our minds. I mean, then it wouldn't just be Charlie Kirk who died. It would be our country. It would be the First Amendment. So we can't do that. We have to march on. And I think that's true of leaders and elected officials. We have to just go out there and be bold and continue to do our jobs. And it's on both sides of the aisle. We have to have those debates and discussions. But there's definitely, there's been a changed way in which we're looking at these issues. And I think in some ways it'll be positive. I think they'll likely have much better security for our Supreme Court justices and other elected officials.
Yeah, because what gets me about what happened with Charlie, I spoke about this at Brave Church this past Sunday at the memorial for Charlie Kirk, is that Charlie's heart and devotion to the American people was a direct connection with what I called his American brothers and sisters. This is part of the fabric of this country, is that we can go into public and talk, and we can laugh, and we can, sometimes get a little heated, and I mean, it's like the Jeff and Bill show. I mean, it's we have that level of engagement. Charlie loved it so much that I don't think he ever would have put a bulletproof partition between him and the people. It wasn't his way. He wanted that connection. When I go back to what happened to Gabby Giffords, she's at a supermarket trying to connect with her constituents. If you're a political leader, or if you're even a thought leader like Bill and I do, we go out and do events specifically because we want to connect with people. You, Congressman Jeff Crank, you go to knock doors. You go and do constituent events because you want that one-on-one human connection. But at the same time, as somebody who does these public events, I think to myself, I mean, it's one shot at one moment, anywhere that could come. And so the scandal of what happened last week was that it breaks the ties and the bonds between the American people.
Yeah. No, I think that's very true. I mean, I think back on, and we've had the calls over the last many months while we were passing the reconciliation bill. We had calls, why aren't you doing in-person town hall meetings, And these calls were coming from a group called Indivisible, which, by the way, is a group that supports defunding the police. It's a left-wing group. And the whole point of wanting to do that wasn't to have discussion. It wasn't to have First Amendment debate. It was to get you in a place where they could mock you, where they could take the narrative over. I have a colleague who decided to do one of those events in the state of Washington, and he went there and they unfurled a Palestinian flag and ran up on stage, and and what was on the front page of the newspaper the next morning was the Palestinian flag. It wasn't this member of Congress having honest debate or discussion with his constituents. So there's folks like that, groups like that are kind of driving these issues, and again, they're not interested in honest discussion about issues. And so I ended up having a couple of town halls. I had them online. I had 6,000 people on one and 5,000 on the other. But isn't that sad that we're being, that our republic, our thought process, our discussion and debate is being driven away a little bit by this kind of attack from individuals and groups. And I look at what happened with the candidates in Elizabeth, and being spray painted, their signs being spray painted with a Nazi symbol because you disagree with someone, you call them a Nazi, you demonize them. And when that happens, it dehumanizes that person. And that's what we're seeing. There's only so many times you can say that Donald Trump is a fascist before people say, well, but I love my country. And we can't have fascists here. So it drives them to want to act. So, we've got to tone the rhetoric down. I disagree with many of my colleagues here. I debate them on the issues. We go back and forth. But you can't go back on the record on all the 14 years I was on the radio or the time I've been in Congress or any time in my life have I ever tried to divide in a way that pushes people towards that kind of anger to where they're willing to go out and be violent. And it's just we've got to do better as a country.
That is Congressman Jeff Crank joining Jeff and Bill live this morning. Congressman, I want to ask a question that was just called in. A gentleman couldn't stay on the line to join us live, but he talked about we're concerned about politicians' safety in political speech. He's really concerned about a shooting that happened the same day, the Evergreen High School shooting. He wants to hear your thoughts about school shootings and how we possibly keep our kids safe, if you could.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. I just signed on Brittany Pedersen, and this is a great example of us working in a bipartisan way. Brittany Pedersen, yesterday, she and I talked, and I co-sponsored a resolution in the House about how terrible that shooting was, and that we've got to stop it, stop shootings like this. Yeah, and I mean, we've got to get to the root cause of what's causing school shootings. Now, I think there are some on the left who believe, they use the phrase gun violence as if the gun picked itself up, fired a couple of rounds. In fact, I heard people talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk and talk about gun violence. It isn't gun violence that killed Charlie Kirk. It was hatred that killed Charlie Kirk. And we need to get to that is the root cause here. And so, look, I think in the school shooting there and in other cases, we need to stop acting like our schools should just be gun-free zones. I've always used this, Bill, that we just don't see school shootings at gun shops and gun stores. And there's a reason, because people want a soft target. These folks want someone who isn't going to fire back. That's why they attack when you're in church. That's why they attack when your kids are in school. And so we've got to take that safety seriously. And I'm a big supporter of. I just had a school district come in yesterday and talk to me about it. They said, "Hey, we have a school resource officer in every single school. They're law enforcement. They're not hired. They're police personnel or sheriff's department personnel." And that's what happened here is they had an SRO in the school. They went on a call, and while they were gone, the school shooting happened. I mean, that's one of the things that we can do, but we've also got to get to the root cause of why kids particularly are driven to walk into a school with a weapon, no matter what that weapon is, and do it. And we could, the left can talk about, well, we need to get rid of assault weapons. Okay, well, people will use pistols, and were you going to get rid of pistols? Then people will use something else. We got to figure out the root causes of the hatred, the loneliness. I think social media plays a part in it. I think online gaming plays a part in it. I think the breakdown of the family in America plays a part in it. I think mental health plays a part in it, right? I think the lockdowns of COVID play a part in this generation doing that. But we've got to figure out what those are, and frankly, we've got to lay down the politics probably to figure that out and stop fighting over things that really aren't the cause.
It's Congressman Jeff Crank, the 5th Congressional District, Colorado Springs area. Congressman, last question here. You've been very generous with your time. Magellan Strategies, big poll out on Colorado. People not happy with Republicans, people not happy with Democrats, people definitely not happy with Jared Polis. In fact, ICE has a better approval rating than Jared Polis does in blue Colorado. I'm sure you got a chance to see it. It broke down your district as well. As you come away looking at that poll, as you're talking to your constituents, what's the direction of Colorado? What's the direction of your district this next cycle?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think what that poll and other polls say is that, one, we still have problems we need to work on. Certainly, people are still concerned about the cost of living, right? And how difficult it is, and particularly in the area of housing. And what can we do to get the cost of housing down in Colorado and across the country? And so there's still a lot that we need to work on. But I think the positive things for Republicans in that poll, one is Democrats aren't the answer, and that poll clearly said it. And I've seen other polls that show that. The Democrats really don't have ideas other than they hate Donald Trump, and that they will let you know that they oppose anything that Donald Trump is for. And so, whether it's the ICE removals or anything like that, they're going to fight against that stuff. So what I think we've got to continue to do is get the word out. We need to stop just saying things like, oh, the one big beautiful bill, but we need to talk about the individual components that were in that bill. I did a ride along the other day with police, and before we went out into the patrol, we sat around a table, and they had their briefing, and I talked to them, and I said, did you guys know that we passed no tax on overtime? And some of them knew, some of them didn't. And one of them said, well, when does that start? And I said, well, it started in January. And he was so excited to know, because police officers, our firefighters, our first responders, and many others get paid by overtime. So we need to talk about the individual things that we did in that bill that are going to really pay dividends. And I think if we do, we will do just fine in the election. And I think that's certainly true in my district. I think that's true for Gabe Evans in the difficult district that he's in as well. So we just got to get the word out on the good things that we did. It wasn't a perfect bill, but overall it was good. And then we have to draw the contrast. People who voted against that. I've got an opponent who didn't like that bill. Well, guess what? She's against $150 billion increase for our military in that, because that was in the bill. There was an increase in base allowance for housing for our military. That was in the bill. She would have voted against that. So, you see things like that. We just need to draw the distinctions and let the voters decide.
That's Congressman Jeff Crank, the Colorado Springs area, representing them in Congress in Washington, D.C. I know you're working hard as well to try to maintain Space Command here in Colorado. You got the whole Colorado contingency working on that, and we sure appreciate it. Congressman Jeff Crank, thank you for the time this morning.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Hey, listen. Thanks, guys. Bill, I'm a little disappointed we didn't get to tussle this morning. But
not this morning. Not every time, my friend.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not every time.
All right, buddy. All right, guys. Thank you.
Always a ton of fun. Congressman Jeff Crank. Now it's time for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, 49 and mostly clear in Denver, expecting a high of 71 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, the Fed expected to cut interest rates this morning by at least 0.25%. Should make it easier for many Americans to obtain a mortgage and help the economy. Today marks 1 week from the assassination in Utah.
The defendant knowingly created a great risk of death to another individual other than Charlie Kirk and the defendant. Notice conviction of this offense may carry the death penalty or pursuant to Utah Code 76.3-207.7, a mandatory term of imprisonment for life without parole or an indeterminate term of not less than 25 years, that may be for life.
Tyler Robinson appeared in court and has been charged with Charlie Kirk's murder, of course, and it may carry, as you just heard, the death penalty. DJT and VP JD will speak at Charlie's memorial service on Sunday in Glendale. That's Arizona. Phoenix area. The service at State Farm Stadium will also feature remarks from Erica's Secretary of State Marco Rubio, HHS Secretary RFK Jr., and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The Utah County DA read the text messages from Robinson to his transgender boyfriend after the assassination.
The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting, and he did provide those messages to police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, quote, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Police.
We'll have more on that throughout the morning. There was a candlelight vigil on campus at the University of Colorado Springs on Tuesday that drew hundreds to honor Charlie. The event was organized by the campus chapter of Turning Point USA, and officials said the gathering remained peaceful. DJT and First Lady Melania attending a state banquet hosted by King Charles at Windsor Castle today. The visit includes a carriage procession with King Charles. The hearing with FBI Director Kash Patel continues today also before the Senate Judiciary Committee. On Tuesday it occurred, and another one today, of course, this morning. One of the highlights or lowlights was with communist Adam Shifty Schiff, who lies more than he breathes.
The American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No. I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of
you're
inmates.
Not in the weeds?
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate.
Agree. NFL great Dan Marino says he's been living with liver disease for nearly 20 years. The former Dolphins quarterback turned 64 this week and said he's been living with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease since 2007. The disease is typically connected with obesity and occurs when fat cells accumulate in the liver. 47 in Lone Tree, 46 in Lakewood, 48 in Denver. Jeff and Billy are underway. They have cranked it up. Already had Jeff Crank on. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
We'll be on the backside of low pressure today, so it's still going to be a little cool, unsettled, and there still will be a few showers and thunderstorms around before better weather moves in Thursday and Friday. Highs upper 60s and low 70s, a few scattered showers and thunderstorms through evening. Lows tonight upper 40s, partly cloudy and mild. Low to mid 70s Thursday, 75 to 80 Friday. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great conversation with Representative Jeff Crank. He, along with Lauren Boebert and Gabe Evans, have put together a list of the exact bills that have put our state's safety into jeopardy. The crime problems we're facing, the drug overdoses that we're facing, those types of things. We didn't just get here by accident. They've put together a list for Jared Polis. They want him to address it. Top of that list. And Bill, I got to continue to do a tip of the hat to Natalie Chuck on this. She joined us on this. She was covering this problem a year before anybody else. And this was this particular bill, House Bill 24-1034, which allows for the rapid release of a potential dangerous person to the community if that person is found by a court to not be competent to stand trial. And Republicans don't get off the hook on this one, with the exception of Scott Bottoms, because he was like the only one that went, hold on, guys, this seems to be a problem here. And he voted against it. Meanwhile, I think it was passed unanimously out of the Senate. And that's one of the things that Jared Polis is claiming. It's like his out. Well, Republicans supported it too. I've asked Republicans to address this and Republican leadership, and they've been working on it. They've got a working group because it gets into some differences with regards to DAs and law enforcement and jails and all that stuff. So they're trying to work it out. But what this bill did was basically say, oh, you're deemed incompetent? The last thing we want to do is lock you in a jail cell. That's not good for your mental health. We'll let you out. And the practical application of this has been crazy. Like the guy who killed somebody that was riding in his own car and developed a brain injury, and then the court's like, oh, we can't prosecute you because of the brain injury you got in the drunk driving incident. So he got to walk entirely. Got to walk. The Solomon Galligan guy tries to kidnap a kid off of a playground and gets to walk because he's deemed mentally incompetent. And then Steve Reams had to join us because he's got a guy that's dangerous up in his county that he has to let out because of this law. So the only recourse he has is, hey, public, hey, my hands are tied here. We have to let this guy out. Beware of the dangerous dude in your midst, basically. So we'll see how Jared Polis responds to this. But these are legislative fixes. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need to build a whole new infrastructure. You just got to repeal some of the stuff like cash bail. Senate Bill 21-271.
But let's talk about that just for a sec. So if you take away cash bail, again, no cash bail, and I think that's a dumb idea, but to have no cash bail, I think that you should have to put up bail money. However, one of the arguments was the idea of space and overcrowding. So wouldn't that lead into the idea of facilities? And the other question that I would ask would be, if we want to have someone that has been deemed mentally incompetent to stand trial, rather than cutting him loose, do we want to put them in a mental facility? That's a facility.
Correct.
That's money.
Correct.
So while some of these are legislative fixes, I don't think just saying, well, instead of the guy who got the brain injury that when he was in a drunk driving accident and killed his friend, rather than letting him loose, maybe they should be in a facility. Oh, we don't have beds for this facility because we know right now in the state facility, they don't have beds, so they cut them free. And that's why we've had a couple of these incidents so far, as far as individuals who are allegedly committed crimes. They haven't gone to court yet, but they had to be cut free because they didn't have space in the beds. That, to me, becomes a funding issue. And if I am going to strategize for the Democrats, the easiest out for Polis is, we have a budget deficit. How do we get the money? And again, nobody's going to want to have their own ox gored. And the easiest way to get it would be, and to circle back to where we started, from the feds, from where Jeff Crank and Lauren Boebert and Gabe Evans were concerned about. They would have the ability to help with some of the funding or help create some of the programs or provide grants. They would be able to facilitate some of those. Is there any interest? Or if they're not, because again, some of these problems need to be solved with money. It's going to be facilities.
You are not wrong with that. I will absolutely grant to you that position, that to fully rectify this situation, we need to spend money on more jail facilities, mental health hospitals, those types of things. The only problem I have is that you don't get the concern from the Democrats that that is the right solution. Oftentimes what you get from them is this: we didn't hug the offenders enough as their kids. We need to be nicer. We need to come up with restorative justice programs because God forbid we ever lock anybody away for any of their consequences of their actions. So, yes, as a rational person, you are exactly right that that a good argument back would be we need to spend money. I just don't see the Democrats all that interested in actually wanting to imprison people for the consequences of their actions. So, we'd love to hear from you. You're welcome to join the conversation. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Speaking of Dan Caplis, Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everybody involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is also believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. That's 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S Law.com. Bill, it's Wednesday. Let's give the people what they really need this hour, which is you choose the news.
Alrighty, yes, it is that time of the morning where we get to make questionable decisions. It is America's favorite fake radio news game show. You choose the news. I've spent moments this morning scouring the interwebs for very weird stories about us humans and giving them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show. And there's a surprise theme to this one because sometimes you have a creative challenge in front of you and you rise to the occasion. Much to the chagrin of both of my partners on the air this morning, let's see what happens. Let's see if we can find the theme. Alrighty. And as always, Blake Olson joins us from the news department because nobody who is in charge is awake at this hour. They're not awake until nearly 10 minutes from now, so we are going to take full advantage of being left alone here on 710 KNUS. All right, gentlemen, here are your headlines this morning. Let's see if we can find a theme. Okay, choose carefully. Headline number 1. Bearing support. Headline number 2, secret ingredient. Headline number 3, being trendy. And headline number 4, slaying the demon. Mr. Hunt, your choice, sir.
Bearing support, please.
Yes, bearing support. Here we find ourselves in the Netherlands. A man has taken part in an unusual cycle ride in the Netherlands to promote prostate cancer awareness. Ooh. But he did have a bit of an ulterior motive as well. 67-year-old Ian Ashmead is part of the Handenham Easy Riders Cycling Club out of Cambridgeshire. In 2023, they saw an art installation on the bicycle trip of a 6-meter-high, about 20 feet, tall polar bear who was urinating into a canal in Amersfoort. It's designed to highlight climate change. That was the issue. However, since the sculpture has been removed because neighbors complained about the constant weeing, basically the water falling into the water all the time. They're like, that's just noisy. So they removed it. But Ian Ashmead has decided there's a calling. Now, since the bear has been removed, Mr. Ashmead decided to dress as a polar bear and then reenact the bodily function with the help of a mechanical device, not doing it for real. He said one of his friends has been undergoing tests for prostate cancer, and he wanted to promote awareness of the symptoms by handing out leaflets and also making a spectacle of himself, which I totally appreciate. Yes, he did recreate the original bear artwork completed with the simulated urination at this time at the city southeast of Amsterdam. He said 6 members of his club completed the 4-day, 200-mile tour of the Netherlands, revisiting haunts from previous trips and talking about their friend that is going through the tests. He hatched a plan to recreate what they saw previously by dressing as the polar bear, and he said, hey, a lot of people really enjoyed it. In fact, he ended up in the background of one couple's wedding photos.
This is hilarious. This is covered in the BBC.
Yes.
And the whizzing was actually like water with orange food dye.
And he had to work on it because the water originally, he wanted color so it looked better, and he had to work on it because it didn't flow properly. The viscous was a little down. Yeah. All right. So, Blake, your choice, sir. Secret ingredient, being trendy, or slaying the demon?
Since you have a theme going, let's go with secret ingredient.
Secret ingredient. 2 teenagers. Oh, my gosh. Why is that firing now? This should not be firing now. Hang on a sec here. We got to stop that. That shouldn't be going now. I can't. Uh-oh. We are in trouble.
We don't hear it.
Houston, we have a problem. It's, the computer is taking over. I don't know what we're doing here. This is going way too early. And I can't stop it at this point. So who knows? We may come back and complete this. Other than that, we're out of here in 10 seconds. I can't stop this at this point. I'll try to come back in a second. Well, at least
we got the peen polar bear in.
Yeah. Look at the theme. Oh, well, we'll be back. This is KNUS.
Jeff and Bill.